vjerskim slobodama, diskriminaciji i progonu, antisemitizmu, poricanju genocida i ratnih zločina u Bosni i Hercegovini, regiji Zapadnog Balkana i svijetu, razgovaramo sa specijalnim izaslanicima Sjedinjenih Američkih Država za ta pitanja. Sa nama su Rashadom Hussainom, savjetnik državnog sekretara SAD-a i savjetnik predsjednika SAD-a za pitanje vjerskih sloboda, Desirée Cormier Smith, specijalna predstavnica za pitanja rasne pravičnosti i pravde, te Deborah Esther Lipstadt, specijalna izaslanica za borbu protiv antisemitizma. Ambassador Lipstadt, in one of your works on Holocaust denial, you write that denying of persecution is the ultimate cruelty, at some levels even worse than the persecution itself. You were all at the commemoration in Srebrenica. The denial of Srebrenica genocide happens frequently. It happens even now, even by the officials in this country from the Republika Srpska entity, and yet the state prosecutor office has not indicted anyone for genocide denial, which is a felony in this country. How do you comment on that legal inaction? And could the experiences from the fight against a Holocaust denial help in the Western Balkans region?
Let me begin with a story. Yesterday, as we were standing with all the various representatives of foreign countries and organizations to lay a flower at the memorial site, I was standing next to our ambassador, Ambassador Murphy, and I told him the following anecdote, that on the 20th anniversary of the Rwandan genocide, I was invited to speak at the parliament at a conference on the genocide, and I was asked to speak about denial. And I did a comparative analysis. I compared Armenian genocide denial by the Turkish government with Holocaust denial and Rwandan genocide denial. And I turned to him and I said, I think I have to go and find that paper and edit it and add a fourth element, and that is denial of what happened here in Bosnia-Herzegovina and BiH. Denial, obviously the killing is the worst cruelty, the rape is the worst cruelty, the separation of parents and children is the worst cruelty. But when you take someone's trauma, you take someone's pain, and you say it didn't matter, or you try to move it away, or you say, well, it's not so bad, what are you complaining about? Or you say it didn't happen. If the first one killed them or raped them or attacked them, to deny it is to kill them a second time, to rape them a second time, to attack them a second time. So I think it is very important to address it, whether it be through the legal mechanisms of the country, and I can't comment on those because, of course, I'm not an expert on that, but at the very least, and it doesn't matter what your particular identity is, to say that this is wrong and it's dangerous and it's exceptionally hurtful.
Ambassador Hussain, besides the commemoration in Srebrenica, you have met with several religious leaders. Have you spoken with them regarding ethnic and religious divisions and animosities fueled by politicians, and to what extent do you believe the international community is responsible for failing to act decisively to end such a rhetoric and politics in the region?
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, let me just say that it's been such an honor for all of us to be here in this beautiful country. And after the memorial service that we attended, the powerful service that we attended yesterday, we really had an opportunity to spend time with civil society here, with the government here, and to learn more about the history, and to also, more importantly, speak about where we are and what we're going to do going forward. It is critical for the international community to play a strong role with our presence, with our assistance, with training that we can provide. And the United States is always ready to continue to provide assistance in all the areas that we've spoken about. One of the most critical areas that we spoke about today, including with the group of young people, is the importance of education. And this is something that we're seeing all around the world. And I deal specifically with the area of religious freedom. And one of the most powerful tools that we have in promoting freedom, addressing hatred, addressing bigotry, addressing violence, is increasing access to education, improving education, not just in a formalistic sense in the classroom, but doing what we can to improve awareness throughout society. And I think that if we can get that right from a young age, and we've had an opportunity to discuss, 2 schools under one roof and other programs that exist right now, and have had very interesting discussions about the importance of integrating students together in different ways. And there's been some pilot programs that we've been involved in with support of the United States. If we can get that educational piece right, it's one of the most important tools that we have going forward. Because if we don't, then we run the risk of losing the next generation and allowing that hatred to manifest itself in ways that it's done in such tragic ways in the past.
Special Representative Cormier Smith, you are the very first special representative for racial equity. And have you found fighting xenophobia and discrimination globally, have you found any common threads that can be seen here in this region as well?
Well, let me just also echo my colleague's sentiment about how honored we are to be here in BiH, although it is for a tragic commemoration. It has really been a remarkable experience getting to meet people here, getting to learn about the rich history and culture, and also hearing the hope for the future. As you noted, I am the very first Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice. My mandate was created last year in recognition that racism is a global threat. As the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, recently put it, and I quote, "No country in the world is free of racism." That is a truth. So my mandate is twofold, is to ensure that U.S. foreign policy programs and processes promote and protect the human rights of members of marginalized racial, ethnic, and indigenous communities. Or another way of putting that is ensuring that no one's human rights are violated or denied simply because of their race or ethnicity. And the other part of my mandate is to build global partnerships to combat structural racism, discrimination, and xenophobia globally. And to be clear, my mandate was not created because we think we have already solved these challenges in the United States. I want to be very clear about that. We are still grappling with these challenges in the United States. However, we acknowledge that we are not the only country. This is a global challenge that will require global solutions, and that includes here in BiH.
Staying with the global subject, Ambassador Lipstadt, since the start of the Russian invasion on Ukraine in 2022, we have seen Russian propaganda narratives similar to those that we could have heard during the Bosnian War after atrocities in Bucha, Kramatorsk, and other places. We had, for example, the narrative surrounding the shelling of the Markale market, where the perpetrator blames the victim for the crime. How important is it to, in a timely manner, oppose such false narratives?
I think it is crucially important. And you say, ask in a timely manner. It's crucially important, and my country has condemned, the Secretary of State, the White House has strongly condemned the revisionist denial rhetoric that we've seen coming from Russia, from the highest ranks of the Russian government, about Nazism and rhetoric that could have come right out of World War II. It's Holocaust denial, it's rewriting of the history, and it's a way of justifying wrongs and justifying injustice. And perpetrators try to do that all the time. And it's, at the very least, it's the responsibility of the world, and my country has repeatedly done, to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. Sometimes in the past we didn't do that, but certainly in the case of the current war in the Russian war on Ukraine, we have done that and will continue to do that.
Ambassador Hussein, countries from the region have unfortunately had citizens to go and to go off and fight for the terrorist so-called Islamic State. But now, in camps housing wives and children of those who died, there are over 60 children of Bosnian origin. The United Nations has earlier designated these children as victims of terror. But now the Ministry of Security of Bosnia says the children cannot be repatriated until certain security checks that he did not specify were completed. Given your experience in counterterrorism policy, is that the right move?
We've had the opportunity to meet so many people here and to see how religion is practiced in such a beautiful way by the vast majority of people. And that includes the Muslim community in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I think it's a credit to the community that you had such a tiny fraction of the people that were even susceptible to ISIS's calls for recruitment. But the fact remains that you had a small minority of people that traveled to Syria and to Iraq. And it's the case that when they got there, it was very obvious to them that what they had been told was false, and that what was going on in these ISIS territories was not Islam in any way, shape, or form. But the unfortunate reality is that many people remain there, including women and children. And we do believe that repatriation and reintegration is important going forward. We realize that there are some difficult cases, and we are prepared, the United States is prepared to help assist in providing more access to information in some of those cases. But in the long run, we are concerned about the situation in the camps in Syria, and we believe that reintegration is the best way forward.
When you speak about fighting hatred, there's a term you use from time to time, softcore denial. What are the main characteristics of that, and how can that impact society? What are its main perils?
Well, I've spent a long time, as you well know, dealing with Holocaust denial, and of course looking at other forms of denial. And I created the term, and now it's become so common that someone quoted it back to me, of hardcore and softcore denial. And usually when we talk of hardcore and softcore, we're talking about pornography. And I use that term because I think denial of history, denial of genocide, is a form of pornography of history. Hardcore denial is to say it didn't happen. Those people weren't killed. They just disappeared. They picked up and moved to another country because the economy was better or they felt like leaving. And that is terrible, and that's something that I have fought in many different ways. But there's another form. It's to say, oh, it wasn't so bad, or it really was just the Civil War. Oh, everybody hates everybody. Let's sing Kumbaya, you know, and let's sit down and say, well, we all love each other. Or why are they always talking about it? Enough already. I'm not saying you should always be talking about the trauma, but when there is trauma and hasn't been dealt with, of course you must address it. It's to relativize it out of importance. Or if someone says, oh, but what about what happened to me? Those are all forms of softcore denial, and they're harder to fight, because the hardcore denial, you can say, here's the evidence, here's the document, here's the video. We visited one of the museums here in Sarajevo, the galleries, which deals with the history, and we saw photographs, and we saw newsreels, we saw documents. We saw them yesterday at Srebrenica. But softcore denial is, I use a strange term, squishier. You know, it's harder. We have a game, the kids, whack-a-mole. You hit something on and it pops up in another way. When a person engaged in denial, they're lying, but it's often hard to pin it down, and it's a very insidious kind of thing.
Ambassador Hussein, you've mentioned earlier the practice two schools under one roof. That's only a segment of the problem when it comes to the education system. Bosniak children, Serb children, Croat children, they read history from different textbooks. Would you think that's maybe the core of the problem when it comes to the war, of course?
When we speak about the importance of education, it's not just about what you're reading in textbooks, right? The ability for children to see one another, to interact with one another, to play with one another, to learn with one another is so critical. Just that human interaction. Because with that interaction, you're able to break down stereotypes, misunderstandings, prejudices that you've been taught, that you've heard regarding other people. So with that integration comes the ability to resolve differences and to understand that not everything that you hear and not even everything that you read, perhaps what's taught in the textbooks, is true. So we've had the beautiful experience in the United States. I mean, just look at the three of us coming from different religious backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different racial backgrounds. We probably don't even agree with each other on every single issue. But because of the strength of freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, and because of the way that we've been able to, from a young age, learn from one another, go to school with one another, we've been able to come to a position after difficulties, as we've talked about in our own society, where we can have differences, but use our freedom of expression as a way to positively engage and to address those differences in peaceful ways.
If I can just build on that,
Yeah,
if you
sure.
don't mind. I agree with my colleague, and I want to talk a little bit about our own experience with segregated schools, right? We have a very unfortunate history a very tragic history in the United States of slavery, of segregation, and then the end of segregation, first in the law, but then it lived on in de facto, sort of in reality, and then it finally sort of teetered out. However, we had this institution of separate but equal. Now, they were separate, but they were not equal. And this brings me to the point about the curriculum. That is also important, as my colleague noted, right? Having integrated schools not only allows students to sort of engage with folks from different backgrounds, different ethnic groups, to humanize them, but it also does matter what we are teaching children. It is critical that we teach them the truth and the fullness of our history, the good, bad, and the ugly, because as President Biden says, great nations don't shirk from their past, even the ugly parts. They face it so that they can learn from it and do better. And we believe in the United States that we are a great nation, so we have to face our history. I believe BiH is a great nation, so you have to face that history. Just ignoring the ugly parts of it don't make them untrue, right? Or don't make them go away. So when we teach our children, we have to teach them the fullness of history so that they can learn from it. But also it's critical that that curriculum talks about the contributions and the richness of culture and the diversity of all peoples so that they can see that this country is a product of the contributions of various different people. And that's what makes it special. That's what makes it great. Different isn't inherently bad. Different is just different, and different is good in many regards.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for speaking for Radio Free Europe.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.